My name is Mia. I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how my own home taught me who my family really was. I spent 3 weeks painting walls, scrubbing floors, and learning to use a drill from YouTube tutorials. It was my first house, my dream. But at 5:41 p.m. on the day of my housewarming, my sister posted a photo of herself with a brand new SUV, our whole family beaming by her side. That was the moment I realized I'd been celebrating the wrong people my whole life. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe and drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from. The smell of chili and cornbread filled every corner of my 2-bedroom craftsman. I had spent the morning simmering the chili, letting the spices bloom until the aroma felt like a warm hug. The cornbread, baked from scratch using my grandmother's recipe, sat cooling on the counter, its golden top glistening with melted butter. It was perfect. Everything was perfect. I walked through the small house, my bare feet patting softly on the newly polished hardwood floors. 3 weeks of my life had been poured into these walls. 3 weeks of scrubbing away the memories of the previous owners, of patching holes and painting over scuffs. I'd stayed up late watching tutorials on how to fix a leaky faucet and hang a light fixture. My knuckles were scraped, my back ached, and I had paint in my hair. But every bit of it felt like a victory. This house wasn't just wood and nails. It was proof that I could build something on my own. On the small porch, I had hung string lights. They cast a soft, inviting glow as the afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon. The table in my dining nook was set for 8 people. My parents, my sister Claire and her boyfriend, my aunt and uncle, and my cousin. I had even made place cards, writing each name in my best cursive. Each chair represented a person I thought was a pillar in my life. Each setting was a symbol of my desire to share my biggest accomplishment with them. At 5 p.m., the official start time, I stood by the window, my heart thumping with a happy, nervous rhythm. The street was quiet. They're probably running a little late, I told myself, smoothing down my dress for the 10th time. At 5:10, I sent a light-hearted text to the family group chat. The chili is calling your name. ETA? I watched the 3 dots appear under my sister's name, then disappear. No reply. At 5:20, the anxiety started to curdle the excitement in my stomach. I checked my phone again. Nothing. No missed calls, no texts explaining they were stuck in traffic. Just silence. I walked back to the kitchen and stirred the chili. The thick, bubbling stew, a stark contrast to the cold knot forming in my gut. The cornbread was no longer warm. The ice in the pitcher of sweet tea was beginning to melt. At 5:41, my phone finally buzzed. It wasn't a call or a text. It was a notification from Instagram. My sister Claire had posted a new photo. My finger trembled as I tapped the screen. There she was, standing in the parking lot of a car dealership, her arms thrown wide in a gesture of pure triumph. Next to her was a gleaming silver SUV, so new it still had the temporary paper license plate. A giant red bow was stuck to the hood. On her right were my parents, Mom, beaming with a pride I hadn't seen since Claire won a spelling bee in 3rd grade. Dad, with his arm around her, smile wide and genuine. My aunt, uncle, and cousin were there too, clapping, holding a congratulations balloon. The caption read, "She's all mine. Couldn't have done it without my amazing family surprising me and helping me sign the papers. Best day ever. Family first." I read the caption again and again. The words blurred. Family first. The names tagged in the photo were the same names on the place cards sitting on my empty dining table. The comments started flooding in. Mom wrote, "So proud of our girl. You deserve it." Dad commented, "That's my Claire. Hard work pays off." My aunt added a string of heart emojis. Hard work. Claire hadn't worked a steady job in 5 years. I looked from my phone screen to the empty chairs at my table. I looked at the string lights twinkling on the porch, their cheerful glow now feeling like a cruel joke. They hadn't forgotten. They hadn't gotten stuck in traffic. They had made a choice. They had chosen her new car over my new home. They had chosen her moment over mine, just like they always did. I sank into one of the empty chairs, the beautifully written place card from my mother staring back at me. And in that quiet, chili-scented room, surrounded by evidence of a celebration that would never happen, I finally understood. I hadn't just bought a house. I had bought a front-row ticket to the truth of my own life. And the truth was, I had never been the main event. I was only ever the person expected to buy a ticket and clap for someone else. In my family, love wasn't a constant steady light that warmed everyone equally. It was a spotlight, and it was almost always pointed at my younger sister, Claire. I spent my childhood standing in the shadows, learning that my role was to be the quiet, stable backdrop against which she could sparkle. The conditions for earning their affection were never spoken aloud, but I learned them through 1,000 tiny cuts. I remember report card day in 4th grade. I had worked tirelessly, staying up late to memorize multiplication tables and perfect my cursive. I came home clutching a pristine manila envelope, my heart swelling with pride. Straight A's. I handed it to my mother, my eyes searching her face for the praise I craved. She glanced at it, a faint, distracted smile on her lips. "That's wonderful, Mia," she said, her attention already drifting back to the television. "That's what we expect from you." There was no celebration, no ice cream, no call to Grandma to share the good news. My success was simply the fulfillment of a duty. An hour later, Claire came home, her own report card crumpled in her backpack, mostly C's and a D in math. She burst into tears, convinced she was a failure. My parents swarmed her with comfort. Dad sat her down at the kitchen table, talking her through every subject, telling her how smart she was, that grades didn't define her. Mom made her favorite dessert, chocolate pudding with extra whipped cream. "We're just so glad you're trying your best, sweetie," Mom cooed, stroking her hair. "That's all that matters." I sat on the stairs watching them praise her for mediocrity, while my excellence had been met with a nod. That was the first time I understood. My best was an expectation. Her best was a miracle. The pattern repeated through our teenage years, especially when it came to money. At 16, I wanted a car more than anything. Not a new one, just a used, reliable one to get me to my part-time job. My parents told me money was tight. "If you want a car, you'll have to earn it yourself, Mia," Dad said, not unkindly, but with an air of finality. "It'll build character." So I spent the entire summer working as a cashier at the local grocery store, enduring rude customers, sticky conveyor belts, and the endless beeping of the scanner. I gave up weekends with friends and trips to the pool. By the end of the summer, I had saved enough for a beat-up but functional decade-old sedan. I was immensely proud. 2 years later, for Claire's 16th birthday, my parents led her outside to the driveway where a brand-new compact car sat waiting, a giant bow on its hood, the same kind of bow that would one day sit on her SUV. She hadn't worked a day in her life. When I looked at my parents, a question burning in my eyes, my mother just smiled. "She's just not the type to work a summer job, you know. It would crush her spirit." The money that had been too tight for my car insurance had somehow materialized for her down payment. When it came time for college, I knew I was on my own. I earned a partial scholarship and worked 3 jobs to cover the rest, shelving books in the campus library in the early mornings, serving coffee at a bustling cafe in the afternoons, tutoring underclassmen at night. My life was a blur of textbooks, caffeine, and exhaustion. My parents called my ambition an obsession with money, warned me I would forget how to have fun. Meanwhile, Claire went to an out-of-state art school fully funded by student loans and our parents. She rarely worked. Her Instagram feed was a colorful collage of parties, weekend trips, and expensive art supplies. I never forgot the night I was hunched over my desk studying for a brutal organic chemistry final when a picture of her popped up on my phone. Laughing on a beach in Cabo, a tropical drink in her hand, the trip paid for with her student loan refund. When I mentioned it to my mom, she just sighed wistfully. "Oh, to be young and carefree. She's just finding herself, Mia. You should try it sometime." I never said anything. I just kept my head down and worked harder, believing that one day my effort would be seen. I became the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for anything. And in doing so, I taught them that I didn't need anything at all. For years after college, my life was a quiet routine of work and saving. I lived in a series of small, cramped apartments with temperamental plumbing and neighbors who played music too loud. Each apartment felt temporary, a stepping stone toward the one thing I held tight in my chest, a home of my own, a place with a door that was mine to lock, walls that were mine to paint. While my friends were vacationing and buying new cars, I was brown bagging my lunch and sticking to a basket so strict it felt suffocating. Every month, I transferred a chunk of my paycheck into a high-yield savings account I'd nicknamed the Escape Fund. The irony was that while I was saving for my own future, I was also patching my parents' present. At least once every few months, I'd get a call. "Mia, honey, we're in a bit of a bind," my dad would say, voice heavy with manufactured stress. The property taxes, the water heater. I always knew what came next. I'd transfer a few hundred, sometimes $1,000. "Just until we get ahead," they'd promise. They never got ahead. Claire, meanwhile, was chronically underemployed, still living at home, contributing nothing. My money was patching the leaks in their budget that her lifestyle created. I was the family's silent, unacknowledged investor. But I kept saving. The day I finally had enough for a 20% down payment in my city felt unreal. The house hunt was grueling. Outbid on 3 properties, walking through homes that smelled of mildew and desperation. Then, one rainy Tuesday, my realtor called about a new listing. "It's small, Mia, but it has character," she said. The moment I saw it, I knew. A 2-bedroom craftsman bungalow painted a cheerful but slightly faded blue. A wide front porch with a swing that creaked. A lemon tree in the backyard heavy with fruit. It wasn't perfect. The floors needed refinishing. The kitchen was outdated. But it felt solid. It felt like mine. Closing was a terrifying mountain of paperwork. Handing over that cashier's check for the down payment was the scariest and most exhilarating moment of my life. When the lawyer slid the keys across the table, I just stared at them. 2 small metal keys on a simple ring. The keys to my sanctuary. I decided to tell my family over Sunday dinner. I pulled out my phone and showed them the picture. My mother's first words weren't, "Congratulations." They were, "Is there a guest room? You need to make sure there's a nice guest room for your sister when she stays over." I forced a laugh. "There are 2 bedrooms, Mom." My dad clapped me on the shoulder, a gesture that felt heavy, proprietary. "So proud of you. This is a big step," he began. For a second, my heart soared. Then he continued, "Maybe Claire can move in with you for a while, just until she figures things out and gets her business off the ground. It would be a huge help." I looked at Claire, already nodding along as if the idea were her right. "Yeah, that could work," she mused. "I could help you decorate. You've never been very good at that." I kept my voice light. "Oh, I don't think that'll be necessary." But a cold, heavy feeling settled deep in my gut. They didn't see my accomplishment. They saw a resource. My home wasn't my sanctuary. It was their new safety net. I threw myself into planning the housewarming anyway, with a kind of desperate optimism, believing that if I created the perfect party, they would finally have to see me. I didn't just make chili. I made my dad's favorite kind with extra spice, honey butter for the cornbread the way he liked it, Claire's favorite brand of sparkling iced tea, even though I thought it was too sweet, a playlist blending Mom's 80s rock with Claire's pop hits. Every detail was a small, unspoken plea. "Please see how much I care about you. Please care about me too." By 4:30, everything was ready. By 5, I was standing at the window watching an empty street. You already know what happened at 5:41. I sat there in the gathering darkness, not bothering to turn on the lights. The only illumination came from the mocking twinkle of the string lights on the porch. The initial shock and hurt began to cool and harden into something else. Anger. A deep, quiet rage uncoiled in my stomach. This wasn't neglect anymore. This was a deliberate act of erasure. At exactly 7:10 p.m., my phone lit up. Dad. For a fleeting second, a stubborn piece of my heart hoped it was an apology. "Mia," he said, brisk and businesslike, no warmth, no mention of the housewarming. We need to talk about your house. Claire's car registration is a mess. Her credit isn't great, so the insurance is sky high. We're going to use your address to register the car for now. It's no big deal." I was silent, processing the sheer audacity. They'd skipped my housewarming to buy her a car, and now they wanted to use my new home to commit insurance fraud for that same car. "No," I said. "That's fraud, Dad." He let out a short, dismissive laugh, the one he always used when he thought I was being difficult. "Oh, Mia, you always make things so complicated. It's a piece of paper. You're family. You're supposed to help your sister." Something inside me snapped. "Be a good sister," he commanded. "A good sister," I repeated, voice dangerously quiet. "A good sister," I repeated. Home. "Is that the sister you want me to be?" Stunned silence. "Don't be so dramatic," he finally sputtered, but the confidence was gone. "I'm not being dramatic," I said, a strange calm washing over me. "I'm being done. Do not use my address for anything. We can talk when you figure out how to apologize." I ended the call without waiting for a reply. The pain of their absence was still there, throbbing, but now it was mixed with resolve. They had mistaken my silence for weakness. For the first time in my 30 years, I was ready to show them how wrong they were. The next morning I woke up feeling hungover, though I hadn't had a drop of alcohol. I spent the morning cleaning, scrubbing the burned chili pot with a vengeance, throwing away the cold cornbread, pouring the watered-down tea down the drain. It was a ritual of erasure, wiping away the residue of my own crushed hopes. Around 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Through the blinds, I saw my dad's truck at the curb, and all three of them walking up my walkway as if they owned it, smiling, cheerful, as if the phone call had never happened. This was their tactic: pretend the conflict never happened and simply move forward as if their will was already done. I considered hiding. Then I opened the door. "Hi," I said, my voice betraying nothing. I didn't open the door wider. My mom pushed past me anyway, thrusting a cheap, welcome home candle into my hands. "We wanted to see the place in daylight. It's cute. Smaller than I pictured, but cozy for you." Claire followed, phone already recording for her followers, conveniently leaving me out of frame. My dad carried a clipboard. "There's nothing to sort out," I said, arms crossed. "My answer is still no." Dad sighed, the sound of a patient man dealing with a difficult child. "Don't be difficult, Mia. I have the forms right here. We'll just add me to the deed. It's for estate purposes. Cleaner down the line. Protects the house as a family asset." "A family asset," I repeated. "I bought this house. My name is on the mortgage. It is my asset." "Exactly," Mom chimed in, missing the point entirely. "And as family, we protect each other. Your father knows best about these things. You've always been so emotional." Claire lowered her phone, annoyed. "Seriously, what is your problem? It's not like you're using all this space. I'd even help with utilities. It would be a huge help while I get my influencer business off the ground." As if she were offering me a gift. The pressure in the room was immense. Dad with his false logic, Mom with her guilt, Claire with her entitlement. My dad unclipped a pen and held it out with the form. "Just sign here, Mia. Let's not make this a bigger deal than it needs to be." I looked at the paper, a quitclaim deed. And then he said the words that broke the spell. "Once we do that, you can easily pull an equity line of credit. 60, maybe 70,000. Perfect startup capital for Claire's business." There it was. Not estate planning, not a place for Claire to stay. Money. They saw my house not as a home, but as a bank they felt entitled to withdraw from. My years of sacrifice were just capital for them to liquidate on Claire's latest whim. I started to laugh, dry and humorless. "No," I said. "This isn't a negotiation. This is my house. You cannot have a piece of it. You cannot use it for your fraudulent schemes, and you will not turn it into a slush fund for Claire." Claire gasped. "Oh my God, you are so selfish." My mom's eyes filled with weaponized tears. "Why are you being so cruel? After everything we've done for you. Did you help me with college? Did you help me save for this house? Or did you just take my money whenever you were in a bind? I turned to my dad. Did you ever once show up for me? They were stunned, not by what I was saying, but by the fact that I was the one saying it. I wasn't supposed to have lines. You want to talk about family? I said, voice dropping low. Family shows up. Family celebrates each other. Family doesn't skip their daughter's housewarming to go buy the other daughter a car she didn't earn, and then show up the next day to demand a piece of the house they couldn't be bothered to visit. That's not family. I don't know what that is, but it's not family. The silence that followed was absolute. My mother broke first, sobs turning to fury. You are an ungrateful, spiteful child. My dad snatched the clipboard. You have embarrassed this family, Nia. I think you have that backward, I said quietly. Claire scurried after them, turning to give me one last venomous look. My mom paused at the door. You'll regret this. You'll regret this when you're all alone in this empty little house. Then she slammed it. I stood frozen in my living room, my body shaking. But beneath the exhaustion, a new sensation was taking root, a fierce, protective instinct. My phone buzzed. The family group chat was on fire, a coordinated attack. Mom. I have never been so ashamed in my entire life. Dad. Do not contact us until you are ready to offer a sincere apology. Claire posted a screenshot of my profile with a caption about toxic people. My aunt. Your mother is in tears. Family is everything. My uncle. Show your father some respect. I stared at the flood of guilt and blame. In the past, this would have broken me. Now, I muted the chat, then left it. A small digital declaration of independence. But it wasn't enough. The clipboard was a reminder their entitlement went beyond angry texts. They'd been prepared to defraud me. I called a 24-hour locksmith. A kind man arrived within the hour, dismantled the old lock, fitted a new deadbolt. When he handed me the new keys, they felt different. Not just ownership, but security. I locked the deadbolt. The solid, satisfying thunk was the sound of a boundary being set in steel. Next, I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus, terrified by Dad's mention of an equity line. He knew my social security number, my date of birth, everything he'd need to entangle himself with my property. Each confirmation email felt like another brick in the wall I was building. Then I called the county clerk's office and, voice trembling, explained my fear that a family member might attempt to fraudulently file documents. The woman on the line calmly walked me through filing a property fraud alert, a tripwire that would notify me of any changes to my deed. The final step was the hardest. I scrolled to Mom's contact, a lifetime of memories flashing through my mind. The mom who taught me to ride a bike, the mom who dismissed my straight A's, the mom who'd looked at me with such hatred as she slammed my door. I tapped, block this caller. I did the same for Dad, for Claire, for my aunt and uncle. One by one, I silenced the voices that had dictated my life for so long. It felt like cutting off a part of myself, but I knew it wasn't a limb. It was poison I was draining. When it was done, the house was truly silent. My mother's final words echoed, "You'll regret this when you're all alone." I looked at the new lock, the confirmation emails. I was alone, but for the first time I didn't feel lonely. I felt safe. The days that followed were strange and quiet. My life, once filled with the constant hum of my family's needs, was suddenly silent. At first it was jarring. I'd reach for my phone to check a group chat that no longer existed for me, think Mom would find this funny, then remember. There was grief in that silence. Not loud, but a deep, hollow ache for the family I wished I'd had. I turned my attention to the house. I unpacked the last boxes, hung photos, friends from college, a coastline print, a childhood drawing my grandmother had saved. Each nail felt like an act of claiming my space. I learned the house's personality. The kitchen caught the morning sun. The spare bedroom Claire had so casually claimed had the softest afternoon light, perfect for reading. One afternoon, I went into the backyard,
drawn to the lemon tree. It wasn't majestic, but sturdy, its leaves glossy, several bright lemons hanging like ornaments. I ran my hand over the rough bark, then went and looked up how to care for it. I bought fertilizer, a watering can, pulled the weeds choking its base, worked the fertilizer into the soil, gave it a long drink. As I worked, hands covered in dirt, a profound peace settled over me. This tree asked for so little: water, sun, a bit of care, and in return offered shade, beauty, fruit. A simple, honest, reciprocal relationship. Everything my family was not. I plucked a lemon, sliced it open in the kitchen. The scent was sharp, clean, bright. It smelled like a new beginning.
The silence gave my mind space to sift through old memories. My 10th birthday, when I wanted a specific doll and was told it was too expensive, only to watch my parents give it to Claire early as a surprise gift. She just wanted it so badly. The time I had the flu in high school, and Mom was too busy shuttling Claire to drama rehearsals to bring me a glass of water. I wrote these memories down in a notebook, not out of anger, but to build my own record of the truth that no one could gaslight or deny. A few days later, I finally dealt with the last physical remnant of the housewarming. The Tupperware of chili still in the fridge, cold and congealed. I scraped it into the trash, washed the container. As the last of it swirled down the drain, I felt release. That evening, I took a book out to the porch swing. The string lights I'd hung for the party were still up. I decided to leave them. Not for a party anymore, just for me. The silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like peace. It was the sound of me finally coming home to myself. A week after the confrontation, the fortress I'd built was holding strong. No more angry texts, no unexpected knocks. But the house, peaceful as it was, still felt uninitiated. The ghost of the party that wasn't still lingered in the corners. I didn't want my first memory of hosting in this house to be one of emptiness and rejection. I wanted to overwrite it, with genuine affection, not fraught obligation. I opened a group text. I added Nora, a sharp, funny woman from my marketing team who'd always been a quiet ally. I added Tom, a coworker whose laid-back humor could make even the worst Monday bearable. And on a whim, my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Hensley, a woman in her late 70s who'd introduced herself by bringing me a pot of basil the day I moved in. Hey guys, impromptu, very casual housewarming this Saturday. I'll provide pizza. No gifts, just bring yourselves. The responses were immediate and warm. I'm so there, I'll bring wine. Free pizza? You don't have to ask twice. Mrs. Hensley, in all caps. That sounds lovely, dear. I will be there. I make a wonderful 7-layer dip. Saturday, the difference in my preparation was night and day. No frantic cooking, no agonizing over playlists. Just my favorite album, a messy bun, and a light tidying. Mrs. Hensley arrived first with her dip and a bag of chips. You've made this little house a home already, she said, squeezing my arm. It has such a peaceful feeling. Her words were a soothing balm on a wound I didn't know was still so tender. Nora and Tom arrived together with wine, beer, and a comically large chocolate cake. We figured we should cover all the essential food groups, Tom announced. The 4 of us gathered in my small kitchen, and the house, so silent all week, filled with easy, comfortable laughter. We ate pizza from the box on paper plates, drank wine from my mismatched glasses, talked about work and disastrous online dates, and Mrs. Hensley's detailed review of an action movie. No one asked me for anything. No one inspected my home with a critical eye. They were simply there, sharing a meal. In the kitchen, Nora touched my arm gently. Hey, are you okay? You seemed really stressed last week. I hesitated, then decided to share a small piece of the truth. I planned a housewarming for my family last weekend. They didn't show up. Her expression softened. She didn't press for details, just shook her head. Wow, I'm sorry, Mia. That's awful. Then, lighter, "Well, their loss. This pizza is amazing, and I'm definitely having a third slice." Her simple validation meant more than 1,000 empty apologies ever could. Later, in the living room, with music playing low and Mrs. Hensley telling stories about the neighborhood in the 1960s, Tom raised his cup. "I'd like to make a toast to Mia and her awesome new house. May it be filled with good friends, bad jokes, and no burned chili." I laughed, a real belly laugh. Nora lifted her glass. "And to new beginnings and better boundaries." Mrs. Hensley raised her water glass. "To Mia." We all clinked our cups together. And in that moment, surrounded by the simple kindness of a few good people, I finally understood. A house is just wood and nails. You can't warm it with expensive furniture or perfectly curated decor. You warm it with love. Not the complicated, conditional, demanding love I had grown up with, but the easy, accepting love of friends who show up with pizza and a 7-layer dip just because they want to be there. Months have passed since my real housewarming. The quiet has become my new normal, a peaceful rhythm I've learned to cherish. The anger has mostly faded, replaced by a calm, sad acceptance. I've accepted I cannot change my family, but I can change how I let them affect me. Every now and then, a message from an unknown number gets through, softer now, more insidious. "We miss you, Mia. I saw a little girl with her mother today, and it made me cry thinking of you. Family is forever, no matter what happens." In the past, these would have sent me spiraling into guilt. Now I read them for what they are. Apologies for their own pain, not for the pain they caused me. They miss the role I played, the reliable daughter, the financial safety net, the stable background character. I'm not sure they even know how to miss me. I delete the messages without replying. My life is smaller now, but infinitely richer. My friendship with Nora, Tom, and Mrs. Hensley has deepened into regular pizza nights. Mrs. Hensley taught me how to properly prune my lemon tree. Tom helped me hang a heavy mirror in my hallway. Nora has become the sister I always wanted, the one I can call with good news or bad, knowing she'll meet me with unwavering support. I am slowly building a chosen family, one built on mutual respect and genuine affection. My house feels like a reflection of this new life. The potted plant from Mrs. Hensley sits thriving on my windowsill. The spare room is no longer a potential crash pad for Claire. It's my home office, where I've started writing again, a hobby I'd long abandoned. The front door, with its sturdy new deadbolt, is a symbol of my right to decide who gets to enter my life. Sometimes, out on the porch swing in the evening, I think about my mother's last words to me. "You'll regret this when you're all alone." She thought being alone was the ultimate punishment. She never understood that for someone who had spent her whole life feeling lonely in a crowd, solitude could be a gift. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. I look at my little blue house, at the string lights casting their gentle glow, at the lemon tree, its branches now heavy with new green fruit. This is what I built. Not just the house, but the peace within it. My mother was wrong. I don't feel regret. I feel free. Family isn't forever when it treats you like an asset to be liquidated. It isn't forever when it demands your silence and your sacrifice as the price of admission. Real family, I've learned, is the quiet, steady support of those who want you to shine, not to stand in their shadow. It's the people who show up, not with clipboards and demands, but with pizza and kindness. I take a deep breath of the cool night air. The life I have is not the one I was handed. It's the one I fought for. It's the one I chose. And as I look around my small, quiet, perfect sanctuary, I whisper the words into the darkness, not for anyone else, but for me. I showed up for me. So, if you've ever been excluded by the very people you've sacrificed for, hit like, subscribe, and drop your story in the comments. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying their house. It's building a better one without them in it.